Welcome. Thank you, Senator Cardin. Thank you, Councilman Terry and Councilman McKessick. It's a great pleasure on behalf of Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress. It's my great pleasure to welcome you and to thank you for taking your time in this busy day and this busy, crazy time. This is a very important moment for all of us. We're all in a position of service to the greater good. We, the people on the ground, you, the leaders, in the powers of the chambers of power. Today, we're here. ECCP is a young but very young organization, but that came together, rising to the call of the day to create a platform, not only for Ethiopians, for the larger community, but a platform where people learn tolerance, inclusion, and in this crazy dividing time, the founding members of ECCP have seen the calling and come together representing different members of our community to create a platform of dialogue for peace and reconciliation and development. And that, I would give the chairman, Mr. Abel Gashe, to say a few words. So today we're here to encourage our community to know the value of civic engagement, to get involved, to vote, because it takes the participation of all of us for this great nation, for this great democracy to work. So that's what we hear. This is a program that's being currently casted on several social media platforms. To mention the few, I believe we have YouTube live casting it, and Zahabasha, another strong social media. And many other prominent Facebook personalities are also broadcasting it. So we anticipate millions of people in our region, Maryland, DC, Virginia, as well as nationwide and globally to watch it. All right, I'm going to be, because we have a lot of guests, we're very grateful. I'm going to be very, very brief in my introduction. We don't have a lot of time. So I would go right to the point, right to the task. But I will remiss if I don't tell you, since last night, I'm disturbed. This is my personal, not as a ECCP. I'm saying this as an active Ethiopian community member. Many of my friends and families have been sending me texts, calling me. Unfortunately, our dear president made a very offensive remark from the Resolute desk, from the Oval Office, literally calling Egypt to bomb Ethiopia, to bomb the aspiration of Ethiopia. That has sent a shock wave down to our bone. Ethiopia is a nation that stands as a symbol of democracy, a symbol of freedom, not only for Ethiopians, not only for Africans, for all Black people of the world. We are the only nation in the world that stood strong, defeated every colonial move for colonization. And we're very silent, we're very humble, but we're very proud in our long history. So the remark from our dear president was very offensive, to say the least. It's dangerous. And it's also against the very core of the American foreign policy, which is to disseminate democracy, to promote peace, to promote commerce, not only in the US, in the world. And Ethiopia sits in the Horn of Africa, a strategically critical place in the world. And making such a statement will destabilize the region, will destabilize the world. I would lie to you if I'm not emotional about this. But today we're here to talk about community engagement. So right now we're among many other Ethiopian activists and leaders. We're talking about coordinating our response. I'll follow back with each and every one of you later on, maybe tomorrow. I've sent email to some of you. So we'll address that issue. So that said, again, thank you very, very, very much. We're grateful. I'm grateful to see my senator, my longtime friend Terry, and all of you. So that said, welcome to ECCP Community Forum for Get Out to Vote and Civic Engagement. Before we start, I want Abel, the chair of, oh, by the way, I'm a proud founding member of ECCP, and currently I serve on the Advisory Council. It's been a great honor. I've received so many citations from many of you, but the last citation I got from ECCP is the mother of all citations for me because it came from my people. So that said, let me give my dear friend Abel an active or another thing. Each and every member of the ECCP board represent a very unique community within our community. So by default, ECCP is the assembly of community servants or community leaders representing a diverse group in our community. Let me stop right there. So I'll give the floor to Abel. Abel, please take a minute to tell us what ECCP is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Tabo, for affording me this opportunity. I'd like to thank my gratitude and appreciation for members of this distinguished panel. I would have been very privileged to call all names, but in the interest of time, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. And it's a great privilege for our community to know that all of you care for the Ethiopian community with so much pressure and I'm sure issues to deal with in different parts, but you take your precious time to attend this panel and share with us your wisdom on the civil engagement, and particularly as it's relevant to the current election process. I'd like also to take this opportunity to thank the United States and its people for affording us, all Ethiopians and other immigrants, especially in the last 78 years, for when we flock from different walks of life, different countries. This country has opened its hands warm, and the reception has been great, and all of us coming and becoming part of the melting pot and becoming part of society is a great tradition. We are learning from the democratic process. We're also benefiting from it, and we are becoming actively engaged the way it is now. It is really a great privilege to be part of this society. That said, I'd like to say a few words. I don't want to take the time, but to bring to your attention what ECPP stands for. This is, as the name itself implies, the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress. As the core of its mission is to see peace and progress becoming the mainstream agenda for Ethiopians. We are very vibrant members of the United States as diaspora. And also we have been, especially in the last 50, 70 years, Ethiopians have been going the four directions of the world. There is a sizable population, close to 2 million, living outside of the country. And wherever we go, we like to be a positive force in becoming part of the society and doing in many ways. There are many Ethiopians in business, many Ethiopians in professional, at professional level. And we like to be, as I say, engaged in the civil society as by respecting the laws and the regulations of the country. One of the main, the positive things that we see among Ethiopians here is we come together in different forms and shapes to be part of the community. One of the initiatives in that regard is to organize ECPP for promoting peace and progress in the interest of Ethiopians, both for what's going on back home across the ocean in our country, but also here, so we know how to engage ourselves positively with the community, become part of the social, the political, and the economic life. ECPP is an unpolitical, independent institution that opens its doors for all Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopians, so we can engage positively in the community. We have been involved in the society in many ways. Though young, we are in coming to action. Especially the COVID crisis has taken us into action by bringing our force together. We managed to help members of our community in all metro area, including Montgomery County, Alexandria, Fairfax, in all areas we have been involved in supporting our community. It is our devotion and the dedication to make sure that this forum, the way it is now, this is one of the many forums we run, is to bring everyone in our community to engage in the civics activities of the society at different levels. It's a great privilege for us to now have this opportunity to work with you. I'm sure all of you know the Ethiopian community in one form or another. And it is our great privilege to know you, to work with you, and also support your causes at different levels, both at both sides of the aisle, be it Republican or Democrat. That's not something that we care for as much as it's an American agenda. As an institution, we are non-political, but at the same time, we like to know how the voting process works, how we can be part of it, and how we can actively engage. And I'm sure the very wise gathering here that I see will help our community to learn about that process. In passing, I also want to express my disappointment in what happened recently. I have been a student of the American foreign policy and how it has evolved. And I remember the Wilson principle that has promoted peace and coexistence among all members of the world in the United Nations. To see that United States that promotes peace and has sent peace corps in different parts of the country, like Ethiopia, has sort of initiated or on the responsible comment that we heard was very disturbing. But then again, such is the way it should be. Time will solve that. Saying that, I like to again thank you all of you for coming, and I will give the mic back to Tebebu. I greatly appreciate for conducting this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you, Abel. I know I said I wasn't going to say much about the guests, but I have to break my rule. My first guest is my dear friend. My dear friend who's my fighter on the power of soft chambers. My dear friend, Senator Cardin, has been giving an amazing leadership. He's been talking about how he's provided a proven leadership. I've seen him on the work. I've nagged him, and he has stepped up. He has always answered my call. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce you, a great leader, now state and the nation, my dear friend, Senator Cardin. Welcome, welcome, and thank you. The floor is yours.
Well, first, it's wonderful to be with you and the leadership of the Ethiopian community. We appreciate very much what the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress has done for our community. And I really want to start with just a big thank you. America's strength is in our diversity. The American Ethiopian community has added so much to the strength of America. And we recognize that and we celebrate that. In Maryland, diversity has been our strength. We know how our communities have embraced diversity and how well we've done as a result of recognizing that's America's strength. I recognize that this forum is about participating in the election, and I'm going to start with that. And I must tell you, it's difficult for me not to express my own personal partisan views because I have very strong views about this election. I got to be perfectly frank about that. And whether you agree or disagree with my personal views, I hope we all agree you need to vote. You need to participate in this election. This is a critical election for America's future. You have two people running that have very different views about America's values and what we need to do as far as promoting those values. So first and foremost, I just want to encourage everyone to participate in this election. Now, if you live in Maryland and you've requested an absentee ballot, make sure you get that ballot into a drop box or in the mail as soon as possible. Now, the deadline is to have that done by Election Day, but don't wait that late. If you have your ballot, complete your ballot, drop it off at one of the locations that have been designated as collection locations. There are numerous collection locations, drop-off boxes throughout the state of Maryland, or put it in the U.S. mail and do that immediately. But let me assure you that your votes will not only be counted, you'll be notified by the election board that they have received your ballot, and it will be tabulated so that when election results are announced on election night, your vote will be part of that count, because they are counting. Obviously, they don't know what the count is, but they'll be tabulating so that they can release your vote, including the mail-in votes, on election night. If you have not requested an absentee ballot, then early voting starts Monday. So let's make sure that you do early voting and be patient, because there could be long lines. We're using social distancing. We're trying to protect the health of our election workers as well as our voters. So it may take a little bit more time for you to get through the lines. That's why we suggest that you do early voting early. and recognize that it could take a little bit of time. The deadline, of course, is to vote on election day. And the polls are open until 8 o'clock at night, but it's not the same location that you had before. And so recognize that it's now by county, the voting done in Maryland, and that you may very well be voting in a different location than you traditionally have voted. If there's any challenges to your vote, make sure you cast a provisional ballot so that ballot is voted. You have that. And you can in Maryland, even if you're not registered to vote, if you're eligible to vote in Maryland, you can do same-day registration on election day. Not early voting, but on election day, you can do same-day registration and you can vote. It'll probably be a provisional ballot, but you can get your vote in. So our message is that this election, every vote counts. Every vote counts. It's not just the President of the United States. We have our members of Congress that are on the ballot. We have some local elections that are on the ballot. We have questions. Please vote and vote up and down the ballot on every office. And make it your business that every person in our community that's eligible to vote, that you help them get their plan on voting. How are they going to vote? And make sure they carry that out. And our message is simple to our family, to our friends, to our neighbors: vote early. Don't wait for the last minute. It's safer to vote early, and you know your vote is there. You don't know what's going to happen on election day. You don't know how the lines will be on election day. There's so many unknowns. So vote early. Every vote counts. Now, I've got to bring this up because, to me, the values of America are on the ballot. You have two individuals, President Trump and Vice President Biden, who have very different views about immigration and immigration policy in this country. You got two people that are on a ballot that have very different views about embracing diversity and speaking out against any form of bigotry and hate. And you have two different candidates that are running that believe in how we deal with protecting our community on COVID-19. You got two different candidates running on protecting our country in regards to our environment and climate change. You got two different candidates running about U.S. participation globally and working with our international community to deal with climate, or to deal with trade, or to deal with healthcare, or to deal with national security. Now, I'm a strong supporter of Vice President Biden. I really believe, as he does, that the soul of our nation is on the ballot and embracing what makes America strong. The values that have built this great nation is on the ballot. And he'll call out hate each and every time, and will stand up for equality for all people. That's why I'm enthusiastically in support of Joe Biden for President of the United States. But whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I urge you to make sure you vote in this election. That's the key thing. Participate. There are those who may very well try to challenge this election. We've already heard that from President Trump. We need an overwhelming participation by the voters in this country so that Americans are confident on the outcome of this election. So every vote counts. We need you to participate. We need your families members to participate. We need your neighbors, your friends. And we only have a few days remaining. You know, election day is almost here. Early voting has started in Virginia and Maryland, and around here. We'll start Monday in Maryland. Absentee or mail-in ballots have already started. So this election, 50 million people have already voted. And if you haven't voted, please make sure you vote at the earliest possible time, either by mailing in your ballot or early voting, and certainly no later than voting on election day. So I know that you raised the most recent issue that is concerned to you, dealing with the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. We recognize that it's important for the energy of Ethiopia, and disputes need to be settled peacefully, not by military type actions. And we know that water rights are always controversial, but you deal with that by peaceful ways of talking to your neighbors. So I appreciate the comments that were made at the beginning of this program. And I can assure you, as a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, as a United States Senator, we're going to be following these issues very closely. And it's really my honor to represent the Ethiopian community in Maryland. We're proud of their active engagement in our community. You've made our community stronger, and it's a really honor to represent you in the United States Senate.
Thank you, thank you. I know we're running a little bit late with time, but before you go, just to exemplify the importance of voting, my dear Senator, in 2018, at the hearing of the Foreign Relations Committee on the Senate side, they were discussing the private sector engagement on international development. My senator called me and said, Babu, you need to come and say your initiative. So he also honored us in his opening remark. He talked about how proud he is by the African community in his district and spoke highly of my initiative. That is what voting is all about. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think I'm supposed to introduce the video from Senator Van Hollen.
Yes, yes.
Senator Van Hollen and I are really soulmates in the United States Senate. We work together very closely. We're all part of Team Maryland. He has done an incredible job in the United States Senate, serves on the Appropriations Committee, has been in the forefront of working to get the type of relief we need in regards to COVID-19. A great friend of the Ethiopian community. Sorry he can't be with you in person, but I believe he's given you video greetings, and it's my pleasure then to introduce Senator.
Wonderful. Hanima, also the founding member of the ECCP, will first read a statement the senator sent after he sent the video. Hanima, could you please read that statement and show the video? Thank you, thank you, thank you, Senator Cardin.
Thank you, Senator Cardin, and thank you to Babu. Senator Chris Van Hollen has sent a message that states, I strongly condemn President Trump's provocative, outrageous, and reckless statement regarding Egypt and the Ethiopian Renaissance Dome. It underscores the urgency of defeating Trump on election day. He is a menace to global stability and the rule of law. We need Joe Biden in the White House to provide a steady hand in foreign policy and restore American credibility, standing, and influence around the world. Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now I'm going to play the video that you previously sent us.
The great state of Maryland in the United States Senate. Hi, I'm Chris Van Hollen, and I am proud to represent the great state of Maryland in the United States Senate. And I want to thank my dear friend Tababu and the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress for bringing us together at this vital time in our country and around the world as we count down toward the November 3rd election and remind us of our obligation to do everything we can to move our country forward and not backwards. And I want to thank the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress during this time of crisis and the COVID pandemic for reaching out to your neighbors in need, providing food assistance, helping small businesses, helping others throughout our community during this hour of crisis. I only wish we had a president in the White House who was as committed to helping this country navigate this crisis as the Ethiopian American community here. And the Ethiopian American community has been a great strength for America. You brought vitality and dynamism. And of course, here in the Maryland, Virginia, DC area, you are the largest concentration of the Ethiopian American community outside of Ethiopia. And so thank you for all your contributions to our success. And it is time that we have somebody in the White House who doesn't try to lift himself up by dividing Americans against one another. Someone who doesn't try to gain personal political advantage by pitting Americans against one another based on ethnicity or race or religion. And that's why we have to remove the current occupant of the White House and elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. to, as they say, help restore the soul of America. And we have a lot of repairing to do. And so we need to get on with that. And all of you are an important part of making that happen. It's vital that we exercise our rights to vote. As my dear friend John Lewis reminded us, and he of course put his life on the line to vote, that the vote is the strongest nonviolent instrument for change that we have. And we need change, both here at home and in terms of regaining America's standing and influence around the world. Here we have an administration that used sanctions to try to punish Ethiopia for the building of a dam. That is not the right way to go. We need to be working with our friends and partners around the world to strengthen democracy, to strengthen peace. That, of course, is what the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress is all about, both here in America and around the world. So thank you. Please get out there and vote. Make your voices heard. This is an urgent moment for our country and for the world.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Senator Congressman Holland. My next distinguished guest is Congressman Dan Byers from the Virginia 8th Districts. On behalf of my community, thank you for making your time. Please take the floor. I don't see. Do we have Congressman Byers? Okay, good.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, it's my honor to be here. It's fun to listen to the two senators. They don't hang around with us in the House very much, but I'm thrilled to be with you and with my mayor, Justin Wilson, to whom I am devoted, from the city of Alexandria. You know, 33 years ago, I proposed to my wife, and we had my bachelor party at a small Ethiopian restaurant in Adams Morgan. I still remember that very, very fondly. Other people go to do evil things in their bachelor party, but we went and enjoyed Ethiopian food, and it was wonderful. And of course, I'm so pleased that Northern Virginia and suburban Maryland have more Ethiopian Americans, first, second, and third generation, than any other part of the country, any other part of the world. And so they are my friends and your friends that we see every day in our work. One of the most important pieces of legislation the U.S. House passed this year was the No Ban Act, which is a direct response to Donald Trump's evil notion that we needed to ban immigrants from many different places in the world, especially Africa. And he said some other evil things, but I deeply, deeply believe that we are a nation of immigrants. Almost all of our culture, our energy, our entrepreneurial values, our economic growth, and our quality of life is dependent on immigrants. And it's fascinating that the highest educated immigrants that we get in the United States are from Africa, not from South America, not from Russia, not from Europe, which that would be most people's guess. So I am so much looking forward to a Biden-Harris administration, by the way, with lots of immigrant character there, where we can actually do comprehensive immigration reform right away, which will be a very, very healthy thing for all of us. And then the incidents of this last year with police brutality and various deaths have brought to mind how important systemic racism is as a hindrance to America's path to justice, to our path to freedom and prosperity. And as recent or more recent immigrants, you don't necessarily the grandchildren or great-grandchildren of slaves, but as people of color, Ethiopian Americans necessarily have tucked right into the systemic racism that affects so many people. And again, with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we are committed to trying to be as anti-racist as we can be, to tear down those structures, to open everyone's eyes and enlighten to the fact that we are all children of God. We are all human beings. We need to be treated equally with respect and equal protection under the law. So I am thrilled to have so many Ethiopian American friends in Northern Virginia. This is, every year we say this is the most important election, but I'm never going to say that again the rest of my life, because this is in fact the most important election. I wish when Donald Trump got elected, I was unhappy, but I really wanted him to be the best president he could be because I love my country and I love my countrymen. In fact, he's been the worst president we've ever had. And this is our one huge opportunity to turn the page, restore decency and kindness and honesty and a real sense of embracing all Americans. This is the first president we've ever had who determined to divide us, set one person against another, Black against white, immigrant against native born. Instead, we need an American like Joe Biden who will make this a fight for the soul of America. And I am so pleased that you've brought these wonderful people together to advocate for turning that page, for moving on in history, and for doing all we can to make America, once again, that shining city on the hill. So thank you for including me, and I look forward to the rest of the program.
Thank you so very much. This is the first of a long journey. We will support you, we will be with you, and we expect the continued leadership. And thank you for taking your time on behalf of my community and ECCP. My next guest, I don't see his name. If he's not, I don't know if Congressman Jamie Raskin is on my, Halima, do you see him? Congressman Jamie Raskin is my next guest. If he's not on the forum, I'll go to the next one and we'll invite him as he comes in. My next guest is I call her my dear Mayor Kate. Mayor Kate is an amazing woman, an amazing leader in our the Greater Republic of Takoma, as we call it. Just to give you a glimpse of what she does. When we first lost our dear friend, community member, Ethiopian community member, the first one to die of COVID, a mother of 3 at birth. She had an 8-month baby. She died. That was the first shock. And Mayor and I got to task and called over 7 medias to tell the her story across the board and our community as well as the broader community. In 10 days, we were able to raise $270,000 to support the family of Wagane. And my dear Mayor, I'm grateful for your leadership. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tababu. Would it be okay if I shared my screen for a moment? Can I get that? I just want to show a picture of what voting means.
Could you please allow her?
Yes, please go ahead. You should be able to now.
Can you see that picture, that photograph?
Yes.
Great. So these are 3 sisters who live in Takoma Park, who are from Ethiopia, and they just voted this weekend. And this is, I wanted to share this with all of you.
It's we're looking at a wrong picture.
Oh, you're not looking at Gannett?
No, I'm not looking at Gannett.
All right. Sorry. Hold on a second. Let me try this again. Now are you looking at Gannett?
Yes.
All right. This is what voting. I don't know what you're looking at before. Sorry. This is voting in the city of Takoma Park these days. And I wanted to share that with you as Congressman Beyer was saying before about the great Ethiopian community we have in Maryland and Virginia. And we are so proud in Takoma Park that so many Ethiopians, Americans call home. And I just wanted to share this photograph that Gannett and her sisters shared with me when they went to vote. Because as we're talking about the big national election, as Senator Cardin mentioned before, we also need to remind people to vote locally. Because the local elections are so important as well, thinking about what happens at our county, a state, a county, and our city levels, and the different ballot initiatives that come up. And so I'm honored to be here with all of you today, to work with all of you, and to build our communities and to make them much more stronger and inclusive. And anyway, this is my favorite picture of the weekend, and I just wanted to share it with all of you. And have a great day, and I look forward to continuing working together.
Wonderful. I'm sorry, I was... all right, I see Senator. Thank you, Mayor Kate. Thank you for the continued leadership. And we'll, like I said earlier, we're gonna be with you, and we expect service, and we're gonna support you. We're gonna make you accountable. Stay on course. All right, I see Congressman Jamie Raskin is in. I don't see your name. Are you? Oh, good. All right, here we have. I said, I know I'm going to break my promise one more time. This is a congressman I've known for the last the first time I met him was 2006. He was when he was a state senator. He came to a neighborhood Ethiopian festival we organized at Maple Avenue. Since then, he has answered all our calls. He is ultimate public servant. He's so close to us. I don't even call him congressman. I call him Jamie. Jamie, it's a great honor. Plus, he is a person who authored Benefit Corporation, and a case I'm championing. My dear friend, Jamie, thank you for your service, and the floor is yours.
Babu, dear man, and all of my friends, look who's on the Zoom. It's amazing. The stars have come out for the Ethiopian American community. Congressman Don Beyer, all the way from across the river, and Lorig Charkoudian. Hello, Delegate Charkoudian. Justin Wilson, what a pleasure. Terry Siemens. I just saw Mayor Kate Stewart, and I've only got my iPhone. There's my city councilman, Peter Kovar. Hello, Peter. Hello, Jared Smith, Councilman Smith. Great to see you. Really amazing. Delegate Janelle Wilkins, D20's own. Cindy Dabala. Hello, Councilwoman. Nice to see you. My successor in office, State Senator Will Smith. Hey, man. So good to see you. I'm delighted to be with this amazing parade of political dignitaries who've come to tell everybody to go out and vote, but also to show our solidarity with the Ethiopian community. We know it is tough times all over the world. It's tough times in Ethiopia. I've not seen a newspaper account of what you sent to me, to Babu, but it certainly does not sound out of character for Donald Trump to be urging Egypt to bomb the dam in Ethiopia. You know, the Donald Trump's friends all over the world are the dictators and the despots and the tyrants and the kleptocrats and the plutocrats and the theocrats, and every thug and strong-armed crony of Donald Trump is rooting for his re-election now. So we've got a responsibility to turn out the vote, not just to defend democracy in Maryland's 8th district or Maryland or Virginia or even the United States. We are defending democracy and human rights and development and solidarity all over the world against these people, because they're all lined up against us. Putin in Russia and Orban in Hungary and al-Sisi in Egypt and Erdogan in Turkey and Duterte in the Philippines, and you name it, all of them. And so, you know, the question for us is just the question that Abe Lincoln posed on the battlefield at Gettysburg, which is, will democracy of the people, by the people, for the people perish from this earth? And that was not some kind of rhetorical question by Lincoln, because for the vast majority of human history then, and for the vast majority of human history now, people have lived under the kings and the queens and the despots and the dictators and have not been able to govern themselves with constitutional democracy and civil rights and civil liberties. So everything is on the ballot. You know, to Babu, what I tell everybody: go out and educate the children. Tell the young people that everything that they need to know about voting is everything that they need to know about driving. If you want to go forward, you put it in D. If you want to go backwards, you put it in R. That's all you need to know. And the Advanced Foreign Policy Seminar in 2020 is even simpler. You can vote D for democracy, or you can vote R for Russia and Putin's corrupt, pathological, contemptible puppet in the White House. 10 more days of this nonsense, and let's put Trumpism behind us. We're going to have a landslide vote, but we've got to defend the vote to make sure we win not just the vote, but we win the election too. So we're going to be defending the vote at the local level, the county level, the state level, in the Electoral College, in the Congress, when we read the electors in the Electoral Count Act provisions, and if we have to, in a provisional contingent election in the House of Representatives. We are prepared to fight to defend popular democracy and Electoral College democracy at every level. And we are going to defend democracy and human rights and development all over the world. So to Babu, thank you for being such a great activist and such a great bridge between these two worlds. And I will yield back to my friends and send my affection and my solidarity to everybody on this call.
Thank you, Jamie. Your leadership is deeply appreciated. We're with you and you're with us. Our next guest is the mayor of my favorite city, and the second favorite city in the area. I proposed to my wife in an Italian restaurant in Old Town, and I married in the city council, and I take my wife for dinner every time on Old Town. So thank you very much. I was in your office in 2018. You gave us a citation for the Ethiopian New Year. We're grateful. I know you're a strong supporter of ECCP. We welcome you to our community. We're here to make your work easier because we're committed. We're on the ground. We are your ears and eyes. With that, I'll say thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much for having me. And I too got engaged in the city of Alexandria.
There you go.
Almost 20 years ago, in fact.
The same time. I got married 20 years ago.
Oh, we may have been in the same, different street corner around the same time. So absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me back again and following these very soft-spoken elected officials that went prior to me, especially my Congressman Don Beyer. It is great to be with all of these wonderful leaders in our community. And absolutely, we celebrate our immigrant population in Alexandria, especially those from Ethiopia. We have so many of our jobs and economic activity that comes from immigrants. And so we recognize the economic contribution that immigrants make to our community, as well as the cultural contribution that immigrants have always made to Alexandria and continue to make to this day. And I think as we look to how we rebuild from this horrific moment that we are in right now, it is going to be immigrants that help us build a new resilient economy and protect public health long into the future. And so I particularly thank ECPP, and thank you so much for having me again. You guys have had me multiple times, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate especially the work that you are doing to support the residents in Alexandria who have been hit so hard by this pandemic. You guys have been on the front lines of making sure that our residents have food, have access to financial assistance for small businesses, and rent assistance for our residents. And so I thank you for all that work that you are doing. As all of the folks who spoke before me have said, this is an absolutely vital election. We have, and I obviously have some very strong views, just like the folks who preceded me, and I will try to leave those out for a little bit. But obviously, we have to make sure that we make a change in the White House. And we also need to, my humble congressman didn't mention that he's on the ballot this November. And so we need to make sure we re-elect Congressman Beyer, as well as Senator Warner, who's up for re-election this year in Virginia as well. And then in Virginia, we have 2 constitutional amendments that are on the ballot. And so one that has to do with how we, in the practice of gerrymandering, in creating our districts. And so make sure you read both of those constitutional amendments and make your view known on an important matter. But obviously the attention is going to be to the top of the ticket, and we certainly have to make a change. We want to move away from a foreign policy that's based on ill-informed ranting. We have to make a change. In Alexandria so far, we've had over 20,000 folks who have voted in person. We've had another 40,000 folks who have requested mail ballots. Over half of those folks have returned those ballots. Just to give you an idea, 4 years ago, we had 20,000 people total that voted early. And so already we've seen 3 times the number of that, and we still have a while to go. We have 4 different sites as of today that now folks can vote in person early, including our registrar's office right next to City Hall, and then 3 other locations, including Beatley Library on the west end of our city. And all I would leave you with is obviously be counted in this election, but also don't let it up. This is one of those elections where we're going to be fortunate that hopefully over 80% of Alexandrians are going to turn out, if not all will turn out and have their voices heard. And your voice is certainly important this year, but your voice is also important next year and the year after and the year after that, as we go into local elections and state elections, where you can make your voice heard on those who are representing and making those local decisions that affect us every day. So thanks for all the work that you're doing. Thanks for the work that you're making sure folks participate and supporting our community during this time. It is great to be with you, and I look forward to being with you again. So. Thank
you, Mayor Wilson. We'll continue to be on your side, by your side, as you serve our community, because as I said earlier, we're all in the position of service to the greater good. Thank you. My next guest is, do we have, Halima, do we have anybody from the Mayor's Office? Mayor's Office of African Affairs, I see it on the program.
Mayor of DC, that is, no, unfortunately.
Okay, no problem. Okay, next I'm going to shift to the Maryland State Assembly. I do have my state senator. In the interest of disclosure, I have to say I'm the chair of his campaign. And as a dear friend, I have a lot of friends in the pool. Thank you, State Senator Will Smith, and the floor is yours.
Hey, well, thanks, and good evening, everyone, and thanks to Babu. Obviously, you're the key to my success, and to the mayor, thank you for your great words, and to the congressman on the line. I remember going after Jamie's tough. I remember when I was my first week in the Senate, Rabbi Raskin came in to give us our opening prayer, and he looked up at the board and he said, "Man, I miss seeing Raskin up on the board." And then 3 or 4 other senators said, "Yeah, so do we." So that's how I started my Senate career. I'm used to following Raskin. So I've become used to it over the last couple of years. But so anyway, we talked about the Joe Biden's theme of the campaign is this is the battle for the soul of America, the battle for the soul of the nation. It's obviously influenced by John Meacham's book, The Soul of America. And so I'll have some other recommendations afterwards. But his thesis is that, we've been here before. It's not that we've been here before, so don't worry, we'll get over this before, we'll get over this time. It's that let's learn the lessons from the Lost Cause, Jim Crow, 2 world wars, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the current political tumult, to apply those lessons to the current situation, and then let's move forward. And I think all of us can agree that first step in applying those past lessons to have a nation of more inclusion and progress and progressive policies it starts on the 3rd, and it's with electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, President and Vice President of the United States. And so, Tababu, we've talked a lot about this for the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress. I mean, you note that there are close to 250,000 Ethiopians in the DMV, and it's now time to harness that political power. Get involved, go vote, not only on the national level, as the mayor said, but also on the local levels. Most of what you do and how you move about society is controlled by the state and your local municipalities in your county. So don't forget those elections either. It starts obviously at the top, but you've got to remember to come out and vote in your municipal and your state and local elections. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done to mobilize. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat all of the things that are on the line, from immigration to healthcare to foreign policy. So here in the state, we're looking forward to having a president that doesn't threaten us and to siphon off federal funding when we, for instance, implement progressive policies to protect our immigrant population. So I'm looking forward to the change come November 3rd. Before I leave off, I just have a couple other suggestions on November 3rd. Don't do it before, after. I'd say definitely, read this John Meacham book, The Soul of America, but then also pick up, he has another book about John Lewis, and it's called His Truth is Marching On. Definitely check that out. That'll inspire you to stay politically active and motivated after the election. We can't stop, can't let off the gas after we go out and vote. More activism remains to be done. And then finally, check out Begin Again by Eddie Glaude Jr. as a Princeton professor. This is a fantastic book. It has kept me up at night, but it inspired me even more so than the kind of the prelude to this book, which was The Fire Next Time. And so I'd say check those books out, get some rest on November 3rd, and then we wake up on November 4th and we go back to work. So thank you to Babu, and thank you for the center, and thank you for everyone that's about to speak and that's come before us. I'm ready to go out and win.
Thank you, my dear State Senator. I see where we've saved some time, so let me take this opportunity and say to those of you who just joined us, this is a community forum organized by Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress, engaged in bringing folks together and committed to creating a platform where inclusion and the discussions are allowed and nurtured. And this crazy global hate-driven politics, I'm grateful to have my own organization and my community is rising up to the calling of the time. We need to listen to one another. We need to cultivate, inclusion, democracy, and tolerance. So this forum is being broadcasted on several social media platforms. So this is ECC Peace Window. It is the Ethiopian community in the region, in the nation, and in the world. So thank you and thank you and thank you. That said, My next guest, again, I have to be in the interest of disclosure. I have to announce that I am a chair of the campaign of Lorik Chargodian, who is a delegate in the District 20 in Maryland, another champion. I mean, I can't catch up with this fierce community servant. So Lorik, it's your platform.
Thank you so very much. And Tababu, you forgot to also give the disclosure that we are cousins.
Oh, yes.
As an Armenian, Tababu and I have found connections both in Addis and in our cultures. And so it's a thrill to be here. And it's also a thrill to represent District 20, which has a large and extraordinary Ethiopian community in the Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, and broader District 20 area. So thank you to the center, and thank you to Babu and to all the organizers. This is fabulous. It's so crucial that we're reaching everybody and inspiring everybody. I can't say more than what has been said about how crucial this election is. I think that everybody understands that from the top all the way down. So what I want to do instead is I just want to ask everybody who's on this and everyone who's watching to make a couple of commitments. The first and most important commitment is a commitment to vote. To vote and to vote early if you possibly can. I do want to remind folks in Maryland that you can register on the same day, both at early voting and on election day. So even if you haven't registered, you can register, you can go starting Monday in Maryland, and you can register and vote right then and there. So that's the most important thing. The second thing is we're asking you to commit to find 5 people and get them to vote. So your cousins and your friends and your sisters and your brothers and your coworkers, get 5 people and get them to vote. Go with them or walk them through it on the phone, or make sure they know where to go, and make sure that 5 other people vote. And then finally, to commit to, and 5 people that maybe are close to you. But then the third thing that I want to ask everybody to commit to do is if you have 5 people, especially in swing states in this country, to call them and make sure that they know how to vote, and make sure they know where to go to vote, and they know how to vote, and that they're voting early if at all possible, because election day may be somewhat unpredictable with limited polling locations and so on. We want to make sure that when we wake up the day after the election, there are no regrets, and that we can celebrate a peaceful transition of power in January, and the beginning of a path for peace in our country, but also a more peaceful world, and to build the just and inclusive communities that are really the promise of this country, but that we haven't gotten to yet. But if we keep struggling, working together, voting, getting everybody to the polls, and then continuing the community organizing even after the election, we can get there. And it's an honor to be part of the movement. Thank you all so very much, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this conversation.
Since I have a lot of time, I have more than enough time, and we're going very smoothly. So may you please take a minute or two just to show a texture of what, at the end of the day, means voting and getting engagement. Could you talk about our experience when you were just an activist before you even ran for an office, the work we've done to create that community kitchen to serve the need of our community? Could you just take a minute to say what that was?
Well, sure. Tababu and I have been working on local business development for 10 years now. And so really looking at all of the people in our community who have extraordinary gifts, talents, commitment, willingness to work hard, but don't have the assets, don't have the capital necessarily to start a business. And we've been looking at what are all the ways that we can use policy and structure and shared infrastructure to create opportunities for those folks to really harness their potential. And we've done that through building the shared use community kitchen, where folks can start small cooking, food-based enterprises. And we've also done it with community, developing a few different both both legal and nonprofit structures where the community can invest their funds into other small businesses in the community. And we've done it, as I said, by changing the laws together to make that possible. And so it's been great to work on all of these very creative ways of harnessing the incredible potential in our community and building on it. And as we get more and more good leaders in across the country, and especially at the top, those kinds of opportunities will only grow.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. Before I introduce my next two guests, since I have time, let me quickly say, here in the United States of America, there is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, meaning the government happens because we give our consent to be governed. Not only that, we also give our tax dollars, so those who are making policy will allocate resource equitably to all of us. That is very, very, very important. In that context, I'm saying this to say representation in the chamber of in the halls of chamber is very, very, very important, from the local to the federal level. And the next guest will underscore the point. The next two guests will underscore the point I'm trying to make. Another fighter of mine and my District 20 in Maryland is a young, vibrant, amazing energy. Janelle Wilson, could you please come and tell them your story so that my people will see representation of immigrants in the powers that we create collectively, we give consent to. Thank you. Janelle, are you there?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Babu, and thank you to the Ethiopian Center for helping to convene this important conversation. Again, I'm Janelle Wilkins. I'm one of the 3 delegates representing District 20. You heard from Delegate Charkoudian and Senator Smith. District 20 includes Tacoma Park, the White Oak area, and also Silver Spring. I am just doubly excited to be here because I'm an immigrant from Kingston, Jamaica, and you all know that our countries have an amazing historical and political connection. And I think we are just so blessed to have the Ethiopian community, such a large Ethiopian community here in our area. And I'm proud to represent you all. I am the first Black woman ever to represent this district, District 20. And so as an immigrant, we are continuing to make gains. We are continuing to see ourselves represented in different ways that we've never been represented before. So when we get engaged and get involved and use our voices and vote, we can really make sure that the representation that we deserve actually happens. So one of the things that I want to share with you all in terms of how we can all make sure that we make a difference in the upcoming election is that every single conversation that we have from here until Election Day, whether we're talking to our grandparent, our child, our cousin, is to infuse it with the conversation. Do you have your voting plan? How are you planning to vote? Because we have to think ahead this time, because our polling locations have changed as a result of COVID-19. Early voting, in-person voting locations have changed. We want to make sure that our communities know their plan. So I want to urge everyone to infuse that into every single conversation. Now is the time, I think, as immigrants, there's a very special pride and a very special patriotism in being able to cast a vote in this country. I feel that as a naturalized citizen, and I know that everyone that is eligible to vote, that is an immigrant, truly understands that patriotism that we feel we're able to cast that vote in the United States. And we are voting not only for our communities and not only for those who are voting with us, we're voting for our community members that are not yet able to cast their votes as well. So keep that in mind, that we are bringing them with us when we go to the polls, and let's make sure that we vote for our just communities, vote for equality, vote for the policies that really matter to us and the candidates that reflect that. So thank you again, everyone, for being on the line, for your passion and your interest. And I think on behalf of all of us in District 20, we are here to continue to advocate for you and here to help in terms of any challenges that your community or your families might be facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. I still have a whole lot of time, so I'm gonna drop another truth. Elected officials are as good as our engagement. Not only we have to vote for them, we have to check their agenda, their platform concerning our needs. We have to say, this is like going to a marketplace. When you go to a marketplace, you negotiate. So you have, not only you have to vote for them, and you have to make sure our story, our history, our aspiration is registered on that platform. Not only that, We have to make them accountable so they stay true to the promises they've made before we gave our vote. Not only that, their service to us, they're empowered, they're charged by our compassion and our support. So we have to vote for them, we have to make them accountable, we have to check them, we have to donate. That's how the society the power will serve everybody in the mix. Thank you. And my next guest is, I'm bringing it home now, the first African representative in the greater Montgomery County. I know he's here, and Will Jawando, Councilman Will Jawando, an amazing energy, smart and dedicated and determined. And I'm going to give you, Jawando, an extra minute to also say a few words about your dynamic wife, who's also a force to reckon with. Jawando, it's your floor. He's not here? I guess he's not here. All right, I'm sorry, I don't see who is here and who's not. So I'll move on to the next person. The next person is, oh my God, another dear friend. This is a Councilman Terry Simmons from the Greater Republic of Takoma Park. Have known Terry for the last 20 years. I've served on his campaign as a campaign manager a few times, and I sit on his kitchen advisory council as well for his campaign. He has also done the same for me, and not only for me, for my community. And he's a dear friend and an amazing leader. The ultimate, like I said, they're all good in this area. Maybe we should send you to other places. So, Councilman Terry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tababu, and thank you so much for inviting me.
We can't hear you, Terry.
You cannot hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, I say thank you, Tababu, for inviting me today. And thank you to the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress. This is such a great forum to participate in. And it's so timely, it's so important that we all get out there and vote. I know you've heard that many times today. So I'm not going to belabor that. You all know you have to get out and vote, and you have to encourage your members and your friends and family to get out and vote. This is so important this year. And I think as I look back over the last 4 years, it's hard for me to imagine how anybody who sees what's gone on over the past 4 years can think that it's not important to vote. We've got to go out, we've got to vote, and we've got to make changes, make positive changes. You know, I appreciate the fact that you know, Tababu has been so active in our community to encourage people to participate. So the voting is only one piece of what everybody needs to do. We also need to participate in our communities. And with that said, I would like to encourage any of the ECPP members, or if you know somebody who lives in Takoma Park, I have great respect for the many Ethiopians that I've met who have very successful businesses and successful careers. But I also know that there are some people in the community who struggle through this pandemic. And so I encourage you to have your members and family, anyone you know, to contact your local officials if you're struggling with things like food or jobs or housing problems, because this is what government is for, is to help the people through these difficult times. It's one of the purposes. And I will say, if you live in Takoma Park or know someone in Takoma Park who needs assistance, please have them contact me. You can do it through the city government. It's everybody knows who Mr. Terry is. Tell him to give you my contact information and get in touch with me, and we can work together to find the resources that people need, including assistance in getting jobs. And thank you for this great forum, Tababu.
Thank you, thank you. I think I saw Delegate David Moon is in the house. If you are, I'd like to recognize you. Can you, Delegate David Moon? I thought I saw your name popping out. All right, maybe he left. All right, thank you, Terry. I'll definitely make sure your contact is passed. And the ECCP has done, even though ECCP vision is noble and bigger, it's inclusion and we have peaked because of the COVID. ECCP has stepped to the calling and has done an amazing job. And I will make sure your contact information is passed over to make sure that our community continues to get all the services. Thank you. Next, I'm going to stay in Takoma Park, and I have Council Member Casey. Where are you? I see you. Could you please take the floor? Hello, Casey.
All right, there we go. I managed to get myself unmuted. Hello, everyone. I'm really, really honored to be here today and have been so enjoying the conversations we've been having. I want to thank the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress and you, Tababo, and all of the organizers for this really fantastic opportunity to talk about the importance of the upcoming election and the importance of voting. And I just want to add my voice to all of these other great voices we've heard today and will continue to hear as this event continues about how important it is for you to vote. Your vote really can make a difference, and your vote really is your voice in this election. As others have said, that's at the national level, it's also at the state and local levels. And we really need to hear your voices, especially the voices of immigrants. As others have said, Ethiopian Americans are a really important part of our city here in Takoma Park and throughout the region. And your voices are really critical on the important issues that matter to you and your communities. We are at a critical crossroads, especially at the national level right now. And as we know, there are very, very different views between the presidential candidates on issues like ethnicity and race, immigration, refugee resettlement, COVID-19, and so many other things. And we need more than ever right now to vote for tolerance, for peace, for cooperation, and for support of the many important issues that we value as a community. So now is the chance to get out and vote. If you live in Takoma Park, I just want to remind you that you do not need to be a US citizen to vote in the local election in Takoma Park. We welcome your vote, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen, you are a resident of Takoma Park, and your needs and your interests matter. So I encourage you to get out, vote. I voted today. I don't know if you can see my sticker. It's easy. You can drop off your ballot at one of the drop boxes. You can drop it in the mail. As others have said, you can also go the day of. And so you can also I also want to remind people you can get involved after Election Day as well. We want to hear your voices on our commissions and committees. We want to see you at public meetings. You can comment. And many of our meetings are held virtually now, so you can come call in, join on Zoom, and we really want to hear your voices. So please, please get out, vote, tell your friends to vote, and let's vote and build the better world that we all want to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Casey. And I think I have to admit, and I know you all, I'm not even using proper title to recognize you. It's great. My next guest is Council Member Talisha. Where are you? Please take the floor. I thought I saw her in the mix. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next guest. The next guest is another friend. Actually, he's a neighbor. He lives just down the street, across the street. Oh, okay. And I just passed one guest speaker. I'll come back to her. So Jarrett, if you take.
Oh, sorry, Tababu, can you hear me now?
Oh, now I can hear you. Oh, wonderful. Good to see you.
I'm sorry, it took me longer than my colleagues to unmute myself.
All right. Good to see you. I'm glad you have time. No problem.
Great, great.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I've had, a chance to listen to all of the other speakers before me who've really shared the importance of voting. I want to reiterate the importance of engaging beyond the election day. There are so many issues that are facing the Ethiopian community, Black and Brown residents across our country, and it is a movement. It's not a moment, right? So voting election day is critical. That's a critical moment, but in order for the movement towards real change in our country to continue, we have to organize. we have to mobilize, we have to get our agendas established, and we have to be able to integrate and communicate to leaders at various levels of government about what it is that we want. One of the things that has been interesting for me during my first term on city council is the fact that it is rare to hear from a number of the residents in the city of Tacoma Park, a number of our Black and Brown residents. How do we do that better? How can we engage more? How can we connect with people like Tababu who can bring these voices together so that we can learn and so that we can change things that are desperately needed in so many of our communities. So again, I thank you. I thank the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress for bringing all of us together. It's critically important that people vote. It's critically important that we exercise the rights that we have at all levels, right? But beyond election day, we have to continue the fight. We have to continue to stress what we need as a community. We have to continue to push for resources for small business owners throughout the city of Tacoma Park and throughout our country to make sure that so many of our immigrant businesses are able to survive this pandemic. We have to continue to force conversations about race in America. We have to continue to force to make sure that there's policies that are happening at a federal level that are not creating problems or challenges for your homelands that stress you out while you're here in America, right? So we have to work together on election day. Vote, 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 vote. Can't stress it enough. I have a t-shirt that says it. But after election day, organize, mobilize, communicate that agenda. And from there, we should really, really, really start to see true change. So again, I want to thank you so much for providing me with an opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Talisha. Thank you, Talisha. That brings me to my order, back to my order. My next guest will be, I'm going to go back to the original program. I'm going to invite Council Member Cindy Nawal, who is also my dear friend. Actually, she was here with me about a month ago and around my fireplace, conspiring what we're going to do in the greater Tacoma Park. Cindy, a great pleasure to have you. Can you please take the floor?
Yes, thank you. I will not repeat the comments of my other city council members and my mayor. I'll just stress what you just heard. Vote early if you can. And then after that, we again engage. We welcome hearing from you. It provides balance because there's some folks we hear from all the time. And it's important to hear from everyone. So that's all I have to say other than thanking the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress for making this possible. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for that short but on the point remark. Next is my neighbor, my dear friend. He just lives like half a block from me. And we always talk on the way when he's on his way to work or on the way back from work on my front yard. We do community politics. Councilman Smith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tababu. I really appreciate you hosting this with the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress. I was on another meeting earlier this morning. It was a leadership meeting, and one of the charges was to make sure that members of this organization, part of the Divine Nine, get at least 10 people to the polls. So I appreciate what Delegate Charkoudian said for 5, but we are going to try to get 10 people to the polls. This is probably the biggest election in my lifetime. This is not just about the soul of the country. This will define who we are as a country for the next 25 years, not just here in America, but around the world. So what am I saying to people? I'm telling everybody that I see while I'm on the campaign trail to vote. And nobody is asking why should they vote. That's a question you get a lot of times. This time around, everyone is asking, how do I vote? When am I going to get my ballot? When does early voting start? Where do I go to vote? So it is critical that the leaders that are part of this Zoom meeting, that those people that are part of the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress make sure that people in the community know where they can actually cast their ballots, know that an election day is November 3rd. They have to have their ballots in by close of business on November 3rd. And once this election is over, the pain is not going to be over. I am supporting Vice President Joe Biden. He will not be sworn in until January 20th. That is a long time for a lot of bad things to happen in this country. So we must stand by our neighbors. We must stand by our friends and be there for one another. I'm hosting a dental clinic, a free dental clinic this Monday with American Diversity Group. We're giving free oral exams, free dental cleanings. And if you need any follow-up service, please, the organizers will provide that to anybody that attends. And it will be across the street from Sligo Church at 7700 Carroll Avenue. These are the types of things that are going to be needed during this time. I mean, COVID-19 has shown things that a lot of us in the community knew were happening, but they have kind of ripped the scab off and let the entire country, the region, the city of Tacoma Park, know that there are a lot of people in need. Those people that may not have been in need, pre-COVID. So to make sure that resources come into your community, you have to vote. Don't just vote for your president. Don't just vote for Congress. You have to make sure you prioritize your local elections, because this election is so important, not just to you, but to your family. Thank you to Babu. Thank you for everyone that helped put on this Zoom meeting. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the community.
Thank you, thank you. You said a magical word, resource. I'd like to remind my community, not only we're voting, as I said, we're paying tax, and that tax money is supposed to come back to us by way of services. And in fact, even procurements, just to give you an example, the Montgomery County buys a $1 billion product and services. We're entitled to that. We're supposed to get 25% of it. Our community, businesses in our community has to benefit from that public procurement. And then the government has to hire professionals from our community. These are privileges that we have as a citizen. The state of Maryland does $7 billion business a year, and 25% of it is reserved for minority businesses. So the elected officials we elect, we put in place, are the people we engage. So this, I know all of us came from a place where politics is a very dangerous game, so distant. No, this in America, politics is way of life, engagement. We're all in it. So I hope we've learned that. This is the first of the many we're gonna have. So it is for the sake of our children in the schools, for the sake of ourselves in so many levels, our social and our economic growth as a people and as a community. That's why we vote. And these people before you are a phone call away. You can call them, they're there to serve you. They're known to be public servants. They rose to the challenge. So I want to stress that. My last but not least, I see Peter, my dear friend Peter Cover, Councilman Peter Cover is in the mix. Again, I have to, in the interest of disclosure, I have to state the fact that Peter is my advisor on my project. He has an extensive background he has served on the Hill, and now he serves as a councilman in the city of Tacoma Park. Peter, thank you for showing up. I know there was a miscommunication about the email. I'm glad you came, and I'll give you a few minutes to say who you are and what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tababu. I appreciate that. And thanks to you and everybody who's involved with the Center for organizing this event. I think it's really important, and it's so great to see all the participation. Since I'm maybe the last or one of the last speakers, I'll keep it short. Everybody has talked about the vital importance of voting at all levels, including the local levels that we're at and my colleagues on the City Council are at. I just want to go back to one thing briefly that Congressman Jamie Raskin talked about. He listed all those horrible leaders of foreign countries. And I think for a long time, we felt very sort of high and mighty that we didn't live in a country that could ever end up like any of those places. And, you know, they're not really presidents or leaders in the true sense. They're kind of heads of cabals that steal from their country and their country men and women to benefit their families and their cronies. Now we're kind of at a point where if we don't do the right thing in how we vote, we could be moving in that direction too. And so this is a time for us to recognize that we're maybe not as unique as we thought we were. And if we really want to preserve the things that we have, and that percolates down all the way to our local level, we really have got to vote. That's the antidote for the awful things we see in these other countries and what we need to do to prevent ending up there ourselves. So I won't go into all the other technical points that everybody else made about when and how to vote. You just have to do it, and it's vitally important. And thank you for the opportunity to comment. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Oh, I'm glad I see and notice that my dear councilman Joe Wandro is here. As I said earlier, I will introduce him especially because, as I said, you know, this is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Representation is very crucial and important, because we have to send our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, to the table of power so that our presence is represented. And this, in that context, I'm going to introduce my champion, fellow African. Let him tell you that his story. I'm glad he came. I'm going to give you, I said this earlier when I was introducing you, I didn't know you were not. I said, I'll give you extra minute or two so you can include a comment about your strong, beautiful woman who's also an asset in our community. Thank you. Take it from there, Willem. We can't hear you. Oh, Halima, can you please?
There we go. I think I'm okay now. Yes.
Good to see you.
It was good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And good evening to everybody, to the Ethiopian Center for Peace and to Babu. And I see a lot of familiar faces. I think we have a quorum of Tacoma Park Council members here, so this might be a meeting. But good to see all of my colleagues from the Tacoma Park City Council as well. You know, as Tababu said, I don't know if you can see my shirt. It actually says, African. I had this on all day today. I was running around, but I'm a, first generation Nigerian American and grew up just very close to Tacoma Park in Long Branch, in the area over there, and area called Quebec Terrace. And I've been here my whole life. And but I am a proud Nigerian American and a proud member of the Montgomery County Council, the first son of an African immigrant to serve on the county council. And I represent the entire county. I'm an at-large member, all 1.1 million residents. And what a crucial time it is to be in government service for all of us who are privileged to be. We are dealing with multiple pandemics at the same time. Obviously the health pandemic, the racial justice and social justice, that the issues have come to the fore that we've never dealt with fully here in this country. The economic inequality that we have, the fault lines have been totally laid bare, things that we knew were here, but that we have been sweeping under the rug, as far as inequality in housing and jobs and education all across the line. COVID has laid those bare. And we are called now in this moment, in this election year, to decide what we're going to do about it. How will we remake our nation? What will we be? How will we live up to our founding ideals? Many of you on this call either came to this country seeking opportunity, or your ancestors came to this country seeking opportunity. That is the unique American story, whether it was my dad in the 70s or multiple generations or people who came over on the Mayflower, or everyone came here fleeing persecution, seeking economic opportunity, and either in finding it in some form or fashion, some better than others on these shores. And we've been trying to perfect that ideal that makes us, I think, one of the greatest nations in the history of the world. And so, but we haven't quite got there. And this crisis that we're in now, as people are trying to figure out where they're going to eat, how they're going to make their rent, how are they going to care for loved ones who are sick. We have an opportunity now to reshape and remake our system. It starts with that single solitary act. It starts with voting. It starts with saying that we believe that these ideas and these individuals will carry forth the mission that will make that American dream, that promise of opportunity for all, no matter what you look like, who you worship, who you love, true. And that's what this is about. I'm sure you've had tons of people talk about the technicalities of voting, but particularly as Africans, particularly as immigrants, it's one of my former friend and mentor, John Lewis, who passed away, used to talk about the vote as almost sacred. And no matter what your faith tradition, that's how important the vote is. And I think immigrants know that, because depending on what country you come from, it's not always valued. And we are in a time now where you have the president, the leader of this country, talking about throwing out votes and not counting votes, and not taking the outcome of the election. So that's why it's incumbent upon all of us to vote. There are important issues here on the ballot in Maryland, state constitutional questions, county questions that are going to could change our ability to provide services here in the county. I don't know, Tababu, have those been gone over at all? The ballot questions? Okay. And so if not, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Actually, could you please also talk about, just to really bring it home, what voting is? Could you take one legislation you passed? I like the freeze on rent increase.
Sure.
Very, very important to our community. Could you, talk about that as well? So
Sure.
my community sees the direct correlation between getting involved, voting.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll end with that, because I've just been.
And your wife, you have to say a few words about you.
I'll end with my wife. Several pieces of legislation. I've passed many since I got on the council in 2018, but one of the most recent ones was in response to people raising rents during the middle of the pandemic. And I know in Tacoma Park, they're fortunate to have rent stabilization, but that does not exist in the rest of the county. But now we do have a temporary form of it that doesn't allow rents to go above 2.6%, which is the voluntary rent guideline for the county during the pandemic. I introduced a bill that would not allow them to be raised at all. There were amendments that happened, and it ended up at 2.6. People are still charging late fees. So I'm actually going to be introducing another piece of legislation that would prohibit late fees from being charged. We're now seeing that those are starting to stack up on people. I tried to include that in the original bill, that it failed, but I think now that we have some more evidence that a lot of people are being charged late fees, that it'll pass. It's one example of just, you can't stay safe and stay socially distanced if you can't stay in your home. And there's an eviction moratorium, but that doesn't stop people from, when leases end, pushing people out or raising rents that could force people to not be able to afford it during this economic crisis. So I've also been very active on criminal justice legislation. We passed a landmark use of force bill, banning chokeholds and limiting no-knock warrants, and raising the standard of when deadly force can be used to only when absolutely necessary after other alternatives have been exhausted. And so we've done a lot. There's more to do. But again, it starts, I'm here able to represent my community, our residents here in the county, because I was elected and because people voted. And that's why it's so important. My wife, Michelle, as Tababu wants me to mention, we have 4 young children, 10, 8, 6, and 1. And we want them to have a bright future. We're both civil rights attorneys and have worked our life to try to improve this country. And that's what we're going to keep doing. So we need your help. We need us to be engaged. We need a seat at the table. If you're not at the table, you've heard this before, hopefully you're on the menu. And so tonight, it's really good to see everybody creating this table. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I will put my email in the chat. If you ever need anything from me or my office, we're happy to help. We've been helping hundreds of people with unemployment insurance, rental assistance. There is still money in our programs. We're considering what we might do as far as round 2 for small businesses that are hurting. And so we want to make sure you can avail yourself of that assistance. The governor announced $250 million for businesses. We're trying to figure out the details of how much we're going to get and when we're going to get that. We don't know that yet, but we know we will get some. And so we'll be in touch on those kind of things as well. So thank you to Babu for having me.
Thank you for your leadership, and we're behind you, and we're happy to have you there representing our voice. Since I have a little more time, and I'm going to give another example in important legislation, but you just said a remarkable thing, you know, being on the menu. I'm going to quote Senator Chris Van Hollen. One time I was interviewing him, and he said to me, I told him, what is the most dramatic example you can use to tell my community the importance of voting? And I was filming him, tapping him, and he said, you know, you better vote, you better be on the table. Voting brings you to the table. If you're not on the table, he said, you will be on the menu. So we don't have any choice. It's a matter of survival. So we have to be, those of you, this is to motivate you to vote, because voting is important on every level of our existence. Thank you. Before I close, I know we're gonna show, since we have time, we're gonna show one more video in closing, but I wanna call Lorik back. Lorik, can you take a minute and tell us about the legislation you're proposing on the mobile unit and the legislation that will allow people who can prepare food from their houses to sell in the market? Because I know many in my community have such a talent, such amazing talent and skill. Because of legislation, they're not able to bring it to the market. This is what you've proposed. Can you please take a minute or two, tell us what you're trying to do, what we can do to support that legislation is passed?
Well, thank you. We have the building on what you and I spoke about before in terms of creating economic opportunities for everybody, whether or not they have the financial means or access to the infrastructure, really making sure that people can harness the skill set and their dedication and grow their businesses. And so one piece of that is the work on, we call it cottage food, and the cottage food industry is the idea is that there's certain foods that can be produced in people's kitchens if they're not likely to be hazardous, likely to go bad. And so there's a limited number of foods, but my legislation expanded it so within that set of what is considered non-potentially hazardous foods, so it's baked goods, jams, jellies, those kinds of things, that they can be sold in grocery stores. So the idea is that my legislation really increased opportunities, economic opportunities for folks who might be working multiple jobs or caring for their children or their parents and still trying to start their food business. And so, you know, what I would say about it is that economic opportunity, that approach to economic opportunity, as well as, you know, all the pieces that we discussed earlier that you and I worked on together, Tababu, really came from conversations with constituents who said, you know, here's my idea, I can't make it work because of this. Here's my business, I can't grow it because I can't sell in grocery stores. And working with those same constituents, we figured out what the problem was, figured out what solutions were, and then passed the legislation. And so, I share that background because there's so much more work to do, and I welcome folks to share their ideas with their barriers, and then we can work together to figure out what the ideas are, how we can break through those barriers, and what legislative changes are necessary for that.
All right. Could you also say a word or two about the mobile unit you're proposing for the intervention of mental crisis?
Sure. Well, one of the things I think that as we look at police killings in this country and police brutality in this country, there's multiple levels at which we need to make really significant change. But one of the issues is that far too often when someone is in a mental health crisis, behavioral health crisis, armed law enforcement is sent out, the situation escalates, and the person ends up either hurt or killed. And we have had, tragically, right here in our own community, Finhan Berhe was killed by police in a mental health crisis just this summer. We've had others in our community killed by police in mental health, with mental health issues. And so there's many levels at which we need to make changes, but one of them is to make sure that we're sending mental health professionals to respond to crises, mental health crises, as opposed to armed law enforcement officers. Across the state of Maryland, there are some jurisdictions, Montgomery County is one of them, that have mobile crisis units, but they're not as effective as they could be, and they don't have as much funding as they need. And so I'll be working with my colleagues in the Maryland General Assembly in the upcoming session to both expand funding for mobile crisis units, expand the priority for use of mobile crisis units, but also adding language that mobile crisis units be used to in a way that maximizes the possibility that law enforcement isn't responding. And also we're including requirements that the mobile crisis units have the ability to provide services in multiple languages, meeting the language needs of the community, and that members of the mobile crisis unit are able to demonstrate that they're able to provide the care in a culturally competent way. So really wanting to make sure that we prioritize mental health services, but also do it in a way that really meets the needs of our diverse community.
Yeah, thank you. I'm mentioning that because, as you said, Fanan Brade, a young Eritrean American at the age of 30 on May 7, his life was cut down in front of his house because he was he had mental issues, and this is depression, this is COVID. He stepped out of the house and never called the police. The police came and shot him down. And instead of sending a skilled professional with skills, you know, we lost our dear, young, vibrant member of our community. We were outraged by this. The Silver Spring Coalition for Justice mobilized, and I'm happy to tell you, in just short time, the Montgomery County has passed a resolution to allocate fund to have a mobile unit equipped with professionals to handle this crisis. So this is how important getting involved is. This is how important it is right now. It is now in so many ways. So again, I thank each and every one of you. I am doing great with time. And since we have time, I'm gonna give it back to the chair and see what the chair wants to do. Maybe we can entertain questions, maybe comments. But in closing, I would say this is a forum organized by Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress to show the importance of voting to our community, first and foremost, to encourage our community. And third, to bring elected officials, I call you public servant, to meet our people. This is a boss and customer relationship. We, the people, are the boss. And so we hope we've established this. This is the first of many to come. And the time is difficult time. It requires we all have to step up. We're all in it together. We are in the position of service for the greater good with the people, and the people with the elected officials. So we'll continue. I thank the Ethiopian Center for Peace and Progress to put this together. This is the first of many yet to come. And then before I close, I'm going to go back to the earlier point I made, where the Ethiopian community nationwide and globally is shocked to the bone by offensive remark made by our dear president. I say dear because I have respect for the office. And we're going to come back to you. I don't want to mix that with this. And I encourage each and every one of us to come together, stand for justice, stand for the truth, not only for Ethiopia, for our beloved home, America, as well. So that said, thank you. I'm going to pass the floor to Abel, the chair. I think since we have time, by the way, a board member made a side bet with me. I won't finish on time, so I have a bit to collect. So Abel, take it from there, and whatever you wish is fine.
Thank you very much, Tababa. I really appreciate, and I thank you for this great moderation that you have done. I have the best of appreciation for all of you, for members of Congress, for senators, congressmen, state delegates, state senators, mayors, and county officials. Really, one thing I learned today is Ethiopians have friends in different parts of the United States government structure. It's a great feeling to know that you stand with us when we need it. It means a lot to us. And we have learned a lot. I think it shows how business works in the state structure and the Congress floor or wherever there is these issues coming. We can see that it takes the kind of power that it takes to influence the voting process. We learned a lot, and we have learned how important this election is, more important than any other time. I have been in this country for 30 years. I've never seen the stake being so high, because it is very important, and it is because it's not just economic issues or health issues for others. It is a country's foundational constitution that's at stake, that defines human right as something that everybody is entitled to. And especially, it has been very tough for minorities in the last 2 to 3 years. We have seen what has transpired in the Black Lives Matter issues. And the fact that what has gone yesterday as the most infamous day, one of the most infamous day in Ethiopian foreign relations, is a reflection how important this election is. It is very critical and important. But it is reassuring for all of us to know that from the Congress floor to state offices to mayor offices, we have friends who advocate for Ethiopia. Thank you so much. That said, I like to say in Amharic a few words, because there are some who like to listen to this program. ይህንን ፕሮግራም ያዘጋጀነው የተወደዳችሁ ኢትዮጵያውያን በአሜሪካን ሀገር ለምንኖር ሰዎች በተለይም ደግሞ በአገሪቱ በምትመራበት ኮንስቲቲዩሽን በየ4 ዓመት በሚደረገው ምርጫ የተለያዩ የመንግስት አካላት በምርጫ እንደሚሳተፉ በተለይም የፕሬዚዳንት ምርጫ የሚካሄድበት ጊዜ ስለሆነ በኮንግረስ እና በተለያዩ አካላት በስቴትም ይሁን በሜየርስ ኦፊስ በሚደረጉ ውሳኔዎች የኛን የኢትዮጵያንን ፍላጎቶች የሚነኩ ውሳኔዎች ይወሰናሉና በተለይም ደግሞ ትላንት በሰማነው መንገድ የኢትዮጵያን ናሽናል ኢንተረስት በሚነካ መንገድ የዚህ ሀገር ፕሬዚዳንት በተናገሩት መሰረት የሁላችንንም የሚያስቆጣ ጉዳይ ሀገራችንን ህልውና በሚነካ ጉዳይ እየተነጋገረ ስለሆነ ይሄንን የመሳሰሉ ውሳኔዎችን የሚወስን ምርጫ ነው ከፊታችን ያለው። በመሆኑም ምክንያት በዚህ በሚደረጉ የምርጫ ስርዓቶች ተሳትፈን ስለ ጠቅላላውኑ በዲሞክራሲ ውስጥ ያለውን ኃይልን የማንጸባረቅ በድምጽ ምርጫ ስለሆነ ኃይል የሚንጸባረቀው በያለንን ሁሉ ልናደርግ የምንችለው ወደ ምርጫ ጣቢያዎች ደን የሚሰማንን እንደ ፍላጎታችን በመምረጥ ነው የሚሆነው። ኢሲፒፒ ከፖለቲካ ነፃ የሆነ ሰላማዊ ድርጅት ነው። በእርግጥም ዛሬም ይሄንን ፎረም ስናዘጋጀው በሁሉም ፎረም በአገሪቱ ውስጥ ያለ ዲሞክራቲክ ስርዓት በትክክል በሚሄድበት ሁኔታና የመምረጥ ችሎታ ያላቸው ኢትዮጵያውያን ሄደው የሚመርጡበት ሁኔታ ለማመቻቸት ነው። ለዚያ የሚረዳ ፕሮግራም እንዳዘጋጀን እናምናለን። ወደፊትም ተመሳሳይ የሆኑ ፕሮግራሞችን እያዘጋጀን የኢትዮጵያውያን ፍላጎት በሚመጥን ደረጃ እንደዚሁ መድረኮችን የምናሳልጥሙና አስተሳሰቦችን በዚህ መድረክ ላይ የምናቀርብ በሚጠቅምበት ሁኔታ ሁሉ የምናደራጅና ወደ እናንተ የምናመጣ መሆኑን የገለጽኩኝ ወደፊት ሀገራችን ዕጣ ያለው በእኛ እጅ በመሆኑ በዚህ ውስጥ ያለን ተሳትፎ ዋጋውን ልናውቅ ይገባል፣ ከፍ ያለ ነው። ይሄንን እያልኩኝ ወደፊትም በሚገባው ሁሉ በመሳተፍ ስለ ሀገራችን እንድናገር እያሳሰብኩኝ ስለነበረን ጊዜ ሁሉ ከፍ ያለ ምስጋና ላቀርብ እወዳለሁ። በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። በዚህ የዚህን ፕሮግራም እንደምንጨርስ አሳስባለሁ። ወደ አንተ ላምጣውና የምትለኝ መጨረሻ ቃል አለ? መጨረሻለሁ። በጣም አመሰግናለሁ።
So would you like to show the clip before we end? So we have time, we have the privilege. Halima was planning to show a clip.
Yes, we will.
I think that would be a good ending. Okay. Again, thank you so very much on behalf of my community, ECCP, the board members, and everybody and every. Thank you to all of you. Stay engaged, be active, because it's the children's life.
የኢትዮጵያ ሰላምና እድገት ማዕከል በዋሽንግተን ዲሲ እና አካባቢዋ በሚገኙ ኢትዮጵያውያንና ትውልደ ኢትዮጵያውያን የተመሰረተ መንግስታዊ ያልሆነ ድርጅት ነው። ድርጅቱ ሁሉንም ኢትዮጵያዊ አካታች የሆነ በዘር፣ በሃይማኖት፣ በጾታ ወዘተ ያልተገደበ የማንኛውም ፖለቲካዊ አመለካከት አራማጅ ያልሆነ በአገራዊ ጉዳዮች ላይ ተቀራርቦ በመወያየት ላይ የተመሰረተ መግባባትን ለመፍጠርና ትብብርን ለማጎልበት የሚሰራ ነው። ይህን ዓላማ ለማሳካት ይቻል ዘንድ የውይይት ፎረሞችን በማዘጋጀት በአገራችን የፖለቲካዊ ማህበረሰባዊና ኢኮኖሚያዊ ጉዳዮች ላይ የፖሊሲ ጥናቶችንና ውይይቶችን በማካሄድ እንዲሁም በውጭ ከሚኖሩ ኢትዮጵያውያንና ተመሳሳይ ዓላማ ካላቸው ምግባረ ሰናይ ድርጅቶች ጋር በመተባበር ይሰራል። ማዕከሉ በዲሲ፣ ሜሪላንድ እና ቨርጂኒያ ከሚገኙ በኮቪድ-19 ምክንያት ችግር ከገጠማቸው ኢትዮጵያውያን ወገኖች ጎን ቆሞ ድጋፍ በማድረግ ላይ ይገኛል። ሳምንታዊ የዙም ፕሮግራም በማዘጋጀት ለማህበረሰባችን እጅግ ጠቃሚ የሆኑ በኮቪድ-19 አመጣሽ የጤና፣ የኢኮኖሚና ማህበረሰባዊ ችግሮች ዙሪያ ባለሙያዎችን በመጋበዝ ለማህበረሰቡ ጥያቄዎች ምላሽ በማስገኘት እንዲሁም ማህበረሰቡን በቀጥታ በማግኘት የተቸገሩትን በአፋጣኝ ለመርዳት ይቻል ዘንድ የአማርኛ የቀጥታ የስልክ መስመር ወይም ሆትላይን አዘጋጅቶ ከሜይ 1 ጀምሮ በስራ ላይ አውሎ የሚከተሉትን ነፃ አገልግሎቶች በመስጠት ላይ ይገኛል። ከኮቪድ-19 ጋር የተያያዘ የህክምና ባለሙያ ምክር፣ የስራ አጥ ካሳ የመሙላት አገልግሎት፣ የህግ ምክር፣ የፋይናንስ ምክር። ማዕከሉ ይህን ስራ የሚሰራው ያለመታከት ጊዜያቸውን፣ ዕውቀታቸውን፣ አቅማቸውንና ገንዘባቸውን በሚሰጡ 65 በጎ ፈቃደኞች አማካኝነት ነው። በተጨማሪም ከሜይ 11 እስከ ጁላይ 4 በሰጠነው የምግብ አገልግሎት ከ500 በላይ አባወራዎች ወይም ከ1500 በላይ ግለሰቦች ተጠቃሚ ሆነዋል። ለአቅመ ደካሞች፣ ብቸኛ ወላጆች፣ እመጫቶች፣ ለማይነዱና ለሀገሩ እንግዳ ለሆኑ ምግቡን እበራቸው ድረስ አድርሰናል። ለበለጠ መረጃ በእርዳታ መስመር ቁጥራችን 703-653-0860 ይደውሉልን። በecpp.usa@gmail.com ኢሜል ያርጉልን። በፌስቡክ ገጻችን ይከታተሉን። እርሶም ከጎናችን ይቁሙ። በዜል እንዲሁም በፌስቡክ ዶኔት በማድረግ ለትውልድ የሚያስተላልፉት ተቋም አካል ይሁኑ።
Thank you all so much. We'll conclude